What's the best marketing strategy for your business? This is a question that I've been asked multiple times in the last 3 years as I've worked with service-based businesses, nonprofits, and other small businesses. You want to tell more people about what you do that will change their life. You want to reach more people beyond your current sphere of influence. You want to grow your impact and grow your business. So naturally, you're thinking, what are the marketing strategies and plans that I should be implementing in order to reach that goal? You've done some marketing, some advertising, which kind of plugs underneath the marketing, and you're left wondering what is actually working. So you come with the question of, what marketing strategy is best for growing my business? The first thing that I will tell you is that is a loaded question with not just one answer. There's a lot of variables that would go into helping us to answer that question. I also want to say that oftentimes I have worked with businesses that choose a marketing strategy based on the salesperson from a marketing team that talked the loudest and sold them the best, utilizing channels that weren't appropriate for their business. So if that's you, you've done a lot of marketing efforts and you don't feel like there's a return, you're not alone. Here's where I think we go wrong. We are asking the wrong question, or perhaps we're not asking the right questions first that will get you to the answer you want, which is, what's the best marketing strategy to use? We need to reel it back and think through some of those variables. When you're talking marketing, you're talking not just strategy, you're talking different channels of communication. Think about all the different places that you and I engage where we see marketing. Of course, social media is one of them, and a lot of people think about that when they're thinking about growing online, but it's not just that. Even when you Google search, there's marketing. When you pick up an app, there's marketing. When you open something, there's like Amazon, there's targeted marketing. When you turn on the TV, there's marketing. When you turn on the radio or a podcast, there's marketing. Marketing can be found in a lot of different places. Driving down the interstate, there's billboards and there's marketing. Signage is marketing. There's so many different channels of marketing. You could spend a lot of money and time and not really get much traction. So there's channels. There's also ongoing consistency, which is part of your plan and strategy that looks different for those channels. But first, before a channel is chosen, before you purchase ad space, before you start to put time and effort into an email marketing lead generation plan, first, we have to talk about your messaging. And what's your messaging? Your messaging is what you do as it pertains to what other people care about. It's taking the benefits of what you offer. Right? The mission that you set out to accomplish, the problem that you set out to solve, it's taking that and putting it in the language of somebody else in the way that they have been framing it all along. So really, it all begins with the person you're trying to reach. You've probably heard about creating ideal client avatars or ideal clients. And maybe you've skimmed over that part because in your head, you're like, well, I don't really have one ideal client. I just want to reach a bunch of people. And I know that's the temptation. It was my temptation at one point. But what I'm telling you is that if you become generic in your message, trying to reach everyone, you will reach no one. You will drown in the noise of all the other marketing happening. You have to create marketing messaging. I have a dog in my office. Ollie, hang on 1 second. You have to create marketing messaging that creates connecting conversations. That if you have those conversations consistently over time, it leads to conversion. Let me say that again since my dog interrupted with his marketing message for today. Marketing is really about relationship. And relationship is built with connecting conversations. And the reason why I say connecting is because you've had conversations that don't connect. You don't remember them. There was no chemistry. It was just like a so-so conversation. Connecting conversations that happen consistently, not one time, because there's lots of noise, that build relationship. Relationship that has trust, likability, authority, all those things that are needed so that somebody feels like they know you, like you, trust you, want to buy from you, which leads to conversion. Lots of C's for you to remember. So that's what marketing is. A lot of people, including myself years ago, thought of marketing as just ads, right? Sales. Marketing leads to sales. And if marketing is done well, the sales is really easy. You're just matching what best suits the person. They already know you have what they're looking for. I want you to think about a good connected conversation that you've had recently. What were the factors that made that conversation great? Now, I'm not talking about with your spouse or with a really good friend. Those will have some similar things. That would be later down in the funnel as it pertains to marketing. I'm talking about you meet someone for the first time, or you don't know them well, and you have this connected conversation. What were the factors? I'm going to venture to say that there were 3 things that were present in that conversation, at least. First is you had some interests in common. You found common ground. There was something that they talked about and that you talked about, or you found that you both are interested in, that made the conversation exciting. They just spent the summer in Italy. You've been planning a trip to Italy. Now you want to talk about Italy. So 1, there were interests in common. 2, I bet they showed interest. If you have a conversation that's one-sided and they're doing all the talking, I love hearing about their life. I love hearing people's stories. But eventually it comes to the place where it feels awkward because they're talking all about them. So you're wondering, are they nervous? Is that why they're just talking so much? Or are they arrogant and they think life is all about them? And your mind starts to wander because you've had things to say, but you were holding on and you let go and now you're distracted. It just wasn't a connected conversation. A connected conversation will show both parties that there was an interested in the other person talking. Okay, and then the third piece of that is they were probably interesting, right? They weren't boring, dull, speaking over your head, talking down to you. They were an interesting person. So I would say you had interests in common, they were interested and interesting. Those 3 things were probably in your conversation that made you have some sort of connection that you thought about later. Maybe you exchanged information because you wanted to have the conversation and carry it on later, right? Or you even talked about it with someone else. Hey, I met this person who had been in Italy and we've been planning this trip and I got their email because they were going to send me a bunch of stuff, so on and so forth. If we think about those negative conversations, I think that you would also agree that the opposite was true. You couldn't find anything in common ground. They didn't seem interested in you and they weren't very interesting. There just wasn't a connection. I'm going to talk in a later time about copywriting mistakes that make those conversations go south, but that's for another video. Today, I want to talk about knowing your person, being interested in that person, finding the common ground and how important that is for your messaging. And that's where it all begins to determine your best marketing strategy. Okay, ideal client avatar. Maybe you've heard about this, read about this, maybe you've done this in the past, but my guess is you aren't using it as a compass for your messaging and your marketing. My guess is you struggle with being really narrowed down and specific because you feel like if you do that, you're going to miss out on business. I know, but that's just not the way that marketing psychology works. People want to feel seen and heard. And even if you narrow it down to a 30-year-old woman with 2 kids who makes $100,000 a year and she's married and she's been married for 10 years and you could still speak to the 50-year-old single man. I'll tell you how later. But for now, what I want you to do is I want you to think beyond demographics. I want you to think beyond interests, okay? I want you to think about this person. And if they were having a coffee date with a friend, what are they saying about the problem that they want to solve, the one that you solve? How are they describing it to their friend on their coffee date? Here's what I mean. I worked with a cardiologist one time, and he had all kinds of lingo. Smart guy, right? But when we were talking about the copy for his website, I said, here's the thing. If somebody is noticing some symptoms in their body, unless they've had medical training, they're not going to use medical words to describe their symptoms. They're going to describe their symptoms for their heart as maybe some tightness or some pain in their chest, right? They're not going to say, I had a cardiac episode, per se. They may not even realize or know if it is attached to the heart. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about, what are they saying their problem is and how are they saying it? And if you're not sure, go find places that these people are talking about their problem. Maybe they bought a book on Amazon and then they are writing a review, right? Maybe they follow a social media account that's really huge and underneath a post they're asking questions. Those are good places to find out what are the words that they're using to describe their problem or the dream that they're trying to make come true, going to Italy. Okay, the other thing that I want you to think about is what are they Googling at night after having that coffee conversation? When they go home and they have downtime at 10 o'clock at night, what are they searching into their phone or on their laptop? What are the questions they're asking in order to try to find the answer for their problem or their dream? Those questions are really important for the messaging. Here's something that a lot of people don't think about when they're thinking about their ideal client. Think about their personal values. Do they have a value of efficiency? They like things to be done quickly. They don't like lots of steps. They like to just boom, 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 done. Do they like things to be done with excellence? That from the packaging to the communication, everything just has perfect T's crossed and I's dotted, and they feel like, wow, this I love excellence. So when they mow their yard, it's like trimmed like with the cool like stacked grass, right? Excellence is a personal value for them. What kinds of personal values do they have that might show up in other places in their life that would be important to them when considering your business? Along with personal values, what are their buying values? Do they like a high-touch customer service? Do they like to talk to somebody who is really in the business, not somebody who is a virtual assistant that's hired that doesn't really know the business, they just represent the business and they're there to answer the frequent. Do they have a buying value that shows up when they buy from other places? For example, do they like to go to boutiques to shop because they get personal shoppers to help them choose outfits and make the decisions? Do they like the doctor that sits with them and the doctor is the one that calls them to talk through things rather than the nurse? Are they the one that wants that personal connection when they make buying decisions? These kinds of things are very important when crafting your messaging and creating your marketing strategy. You want to speak directly to the person. They want to feel seen and known, and all of their needs and desires and wants and hesitations are addressed. They don't even have to say them out loud. You say it for them. They feel so known and understood. Be interested in them. These are a few of the questions that you can think about and ask yourself before you ever pick what your best marketing strategy is. Okay, last thing. I mentioned channels in the beginning when it comes to where marketing can show up. This person that you've been thinking about, studying, being curious about, writing notes about, where is this person most often? If they are at work, are they scrolling their phones? When they're not at work and they've got some downtime, what are they using their time to do? Are they, because they have a personal value of health, what kinds of businesses are they in? Are they in a massage clinic? Do they go to a yoga studio? Do they go to a Whole Foods grocery store? Where are these people and where do they show up? Because there's several things that you can learn about or learn from by acknowledging where these people are. You can look at other people doing marketing successfully in those spaces and go, I see how they are framing their messaging, and I see what channels that they are using to reach your person. So that's one thing. But the other thing that you can observe is when they're in those spaces, what's in their head? So if they're scrolling Instagram, say, are they there for an escape? Are they there to connect with friends? Are they there for business? Are they there for entertainment? Like they just want to laugh or share a funny meme with a friend? What are they there for? Because if they're there for entertainment, then perhaps your marketing, if you're not an entertainer by nature, maybe that wouldn't be the right fit. If they're there because they have interests like health, and they follow people that have a knowledge base about health, and you're in the health space and you're an educator, that might be the perfect place for you to reach them. Understanding what channels they're in and why they're there and what they're thinking in their head when they're there is also important when choosing the best marketing plan and strategy. There are two other things that I am not going to dive into here in this video, but remember I said having those common interests and being interesting is also a part of that connecting conversation. The interesting is your brand voice so that you don't sound like a robot, so that you sound like a real human, so people can feel like they know you and like you. So we'll talk about the brand voice at another time. But the interests in common, it's those differentiators that set you apart from other businesses that make them feel more connected to you, because maybe you have a personal value of excellence as well, okay? And maybe that shows up in your marketing or in what you say on video or in what you write. Excellence is a big part of who you are and how you operate. That might be a great common ground interest. Okay, so let's go back to that Italy example. If the person who spent the summer in Italy, if they were like hiking with a backpack through Italy and staying in hostels, not my type of travel, right? So I'd be interested in hearing about Italy, but I don't know that I would trust their viewpoints on what was good or bad, just because we have different ways of seeing things. So your about page, your bios, those things are not really about you. They're the things about you that they care about. So it's still all about that person. So we'll talk about that at another time as well, about how do we find that common ground, those interests, without just talking all about ourselves, because that's not what people are looking for when they're trying to engage with your marketing and your branding. So how do we present ourselves so that we can be interesting and find common ground, as well as that brand voice? We'll discuss that at another time, and also discuss how to prepare a message that speaks to the problem that your person has, or the dream that your person has, and guides them through this story that leads them to this solution and this plan that they've been waiting for, and gives them hope and relief and all the things that they've been waiting for, so that the next coffee conversation that they have with a friend is, oh, I found it. I found the thing, the person, the service that I needed. Remember when we talked about, I found it, let me show you. That's what we want for your business. That's what you want for your business. How do I tell more? How do I reach more? How do I grow my impact? It starts with that person.